The noise hit Jake Miller like a wall when he walked into Mongo's bar. Every alien species in 3 sectors seemed to be crammed into the smoky cantina on Nexus Prime. The air was thick with the smell of a dozen different atmospheres mixing together through the life support systems. Jake found his usual corner table and ordered something that wouldn't kill him. Being human on a trade station meant being careful about what you put in your body. Jake had been working cargo runs for the past 6 months, keeping his head down and staying out of trouble. That was getting harder to do lately. More and more aliens were asking questions about Earth and humans. Most of the time, Jake just shrugged and said he was from a mining colony. It was easier than explaining that his home world was classified as a death world by the Galactic Council. Tonight felt different, though. There was an energy in the bar that made Jake's skin crawl. He recognized the feeling from his military days. Something was about to happen. The source of the energy became clear when a massive figure stood up at the main bar. Vorthak the Destroyer was exactly what his name suggested. 8 feet tall, with scales like armor plating and claws that could tear through steel. His reputation stretched across known space as the greatest hunter of dangerous prey. Creatures that could kill most beings without breaking a sweat fell to Vorthak's skill and weapons. The ice spiders of Kelthon Prime, Vorthak was saying to his audience of admirers. 12 legs of pure death, each one sharp enough to pierce combat armor. They hunt in packs of 50 and can survive in temperatures that would freeze your blood solid in seconds. The crowd around him made sounds of amazement. Several bought him drinks. A few backed away slightly as if being near such a famous killer might be dangerous. Vorthak took a long drink from a container that would have been a barrel for most species. I tracked the pack leader for 3 days across the ice fields. She was smart, that one. Set traps for me, used her pack to try to surround me, but in the end she died like all the rest. A small blue alien with 4 arms raised one hand nervously. How many did you kill total? 53, Vorthak said with pride. The entire pack plus some stragglers I found later. Not one escaped my hunt. More sounds of awe from the crowd. Jake shook his head and took another sip of his drink. He had seen this kind of boasting before, usually right before someone got themselves killed doing something stupid. "Tell them about the acid swimmers of Trenchworld," called out a voice from the back. Vorthak's eyes lit up. Ah, yes. Now those were a challenge. Living in pure acid that would dissolve most ships, breathing poison that would kill you just from being near it, and fast. Faster than anything I had ever hunted before. He gestured with his massive claws as he spoke. They could sense movement through the acid from miles away. One wrong step and they would be on you in seconds. Teeth like molecular blades. Hide thick enough to stop plasma rounds. How did you hunt them? Someone asked. Patience, Vorthak said. I waited at their breeding pools for 7 days. No food, no water, just waiting. When they came to spawn, I was ready. My thermal lance could punch through their hide, and my force nets could hold them long enough for the killing blow. How many? 47 adults and all their eggs. The entire species on that world, gone. They will never threaten travelers again. The crowd cheered. Jake felt sick. Wiping out entire species was something to celebrate now. He had seen what happened when ecosystems collapsed. It was never pretty. What about the stone bears of Graxis? Called another voice. Vorthak's chest swelled with pride. Creatures of living rock that could crush a battle tank with their bare hands. They could tunnel through solid granite like it was soft dirt. Their claws could cut through any known metal. He paused for dramatic effect. I hunted them in their own caves, underground for weeks, following their tunnel systems. They tried to collapse the passages on me. They tried to trap me in dead ends. But I know the mind of prey. I think like they think. I anticipate their moves. And 16 stone bears, the largest pack ever recorded, all dead by my hand. Their caves are silent now. More cheering. More drinks bought for the famous hunter. Jake was about to leave when he noticed movement near the bar. A small human woman was walking toward Vorthak's group. Jake recognized her as one of the maintenance workers on the station. Lisa something. He had seen her around but never talked to her. Lisa was tiny compared to most of the aliens in the bar. She looked like a child next to Vorthak. Her maintenance coveralls were clean but worn. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked completely out of place among the crowd of admirers surrounding the famous hunter. But she walked right up to the group without hesitation. The aliens made room for her, probably thinking she wanted to hear the stories like everyone else. "Excuse me," Lisa said politely. "I couldn't help overhearing your hunting stories. They sound really impressive." Vorthak looked down at her with something like amusement. "A human wants to hear about real hunting? Most of your species are too weak for such tales." Lisa nodded seriously. "Oh, I believe you. Hunting creatures like that takes real skill. But I have a question." "Ask," Vorthak said, clearly enjoying the attention. "You said you killed all the ice spiders, all the acid swimmers, and all the stone bears. That's really impressive. But did any of them walk away?" The bar went quiet. Even the background noise of drinking and talking seemed to stop. Vorthak stared down at Lisa with confusion. "Walk away?" he repeated. "What do you mean walk away? I am Vorthak the Destroyer. Nothing walks away from my hunts. That is the point." Lisa tilted her head like she was thinking. "Oh, where I come from, the really dangerous predators usually let some of their prey escape. You know, for next time. It's more sustainable that way." The silence stretched longer. Jake could see aliens looking at each other with puzzled expressions. A few were whispering among themselves. Vorthak's voice was less certain when he spoke again. "Sustainable? I do not understand this word in the context of hunting." "Well," Lisa said with a small shrug, "if you kill everything, then there's nothing left to hunt later. The really good hunters back home always make sure some get away. Keeps the population healthy. Makes for better sport, too, since the survivors get smarter." She looked around at the crowd of aliens watching her. "But maybe things are different out here. Anyway, thanks for the stories. They were really interesting." Lisa turned and walked back to her table like nothing had happened. The crowd around Vorthak remained silent. Jake could see the gears turning in alien minds. Questions that had never been asked before were starting to form. Vorthak stood there for a long moment, his expression shifting from confusion to something that might have been concern. For the first time in his long career as the galaxy's most feared hunter, someone had suggested that maybe his methods were not as impressive as he thought. Jake finished his drink and left the bar. Outside in the corridor, he could still hear the murmur of confused voices and uncomfortable questions. He had a feeling that Lisa's simple question was going to cause more trouble than anyone realized. The next few days on Nexus Prime were going to be very interesting. Lisa Carter was replacing a burnt-out power coupling in Maintenance Bay 7 when the shadow fell across her work area. She looked up to see Vorthak the Destroyer standing in the doorway, his massive frame blocking most of the light from the corridor. His scales caught the harsh white glow of the work lights, making him look even more intimidating than usual. "We need to talk," Vorthak said. His voice was low and controlled, but Lisa could hear something underneath it. Anger, maybe, or confusion. Lisa set down her tools and wiped her hands on a rag. Sure. What about? Your words last night, in the bar. You questioned my hunting methods. I asked a question, Lisa said calmly. I didn't question anything. Vorthak stepped into the maintenance bay. The space suddenly felt much smaller. You implied that my techniques are somehow inferior, that I am not the hunter I claim to be. Lisa considered this. I don't know enough about your hunting to say if it's good or bad. I just noticed that you don't seem to follow the same rules we do back home. Rules? Vorthak's voice rose slightly. I am the apex predator of known space. I do not follow rules. I make them. Okay, Lisa said. She went back to her work, carefully connecting the new power coupling to the main grid. Where I come from, hunters follow certain rules. It's not just about being able to kill things. Vorthak moved closer. Explain these rules. Lisa tested the connection before answering. Well, first rule is sustainability. You don't kill everything because then there's nothing left. Second rule is fair chase. The prey has to have a real chance to escape. Third rule is respect. You use everything you kill and don't waste it. These are the rules of weak hunters, Vorthak said. Real predators take what they want. Maybe, Lisa said, but the predators back home are still hunting. Your ice spiders and acid swimmers and stone bears are all extinct now, so who's really the better hunter? Vorthak was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Where exactly is this home you speak of? Lisa looked up from her work. Earth. Sol system. About 40 parsecs from here. Vorthak's eyes widened. Earth? The classified death world? It's classified? Lisa seemed genuinely surprised. I didn't know that. I just think of it as home. Earth is considered one of the most dangerous worlds in known space, Vorthak said slowly. The Galactic Council has banned settlement there. They say the environment alone would kill most species within days. Lisa shrugged. It can be tough, I guess. But we manage okay. You are a Deathworlder, Vorthak said, and now there was something like respect in his voice. I have never met a human before. Well, now you have, Lisa said. She finished with the power coupling and started packing up her tools. There are a few of us working on the station. Vorthak was studying her now, like she was a new type of prey he had never encountered. These hunting rules you mentioned, are they effective? Seems to work. We've been hunting on Earth for thousands of years and there's still plenty to hunt. Plus the prey keeps getting smarter and more challenging. Makes for better sport. Show me, Vorthak said suddenly. Lisa looked up. Show you what? These human hunting techniques prove that they are superior to mine. Lisa laughed. I'm not a hunter. I fix machines. I just grew up around hunters. But you understand the principles? I guess so. My dad taught me to track and hunt when I was a kid. Basic stuff. Vorthak's claws extended slightly. Then you will not mind a small demonstration. What kind of demonstration? A hunt. You and I. We will see whose methods are truly superior. Lisa set down her toolkit. What would we hunt? There's nothing dangerous on the station. Vorthak smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. We will hunt the most dangerous prey of all. Humans, Lisa raised an eyebrow. You want to hunt humans? Not to the death, Vorthak said quickly. A test of skills only. I have heard that humans can be challenging prey. I wish to see if this is true. I don't know, Lisa said. That sounds kind of weird. Are you afraid? Lisa looked at him for a moment. No, but I'm not the one you should be hunting. I'm just a maintenance tech. Then who? Lisa thought about it. Well, there's Jake Miller. He works cargo, but he used to be military. And Sam Torres and Beth Williams. They do security work. They might be up for something like this. Military. Vorthax. Interest peaked. Yes, that would be a proper test. But if we're going to do this, we need rules, Lisa said. Real rules, not just hunt until someone dies. Vorthak nodded. What do you propose? Lisa was warming to the idea now. Okay, here's the deal. You get to hunt 3 humans in the lower levels of the station. You have 48 hours to catch all 3. If you catch them all, I'll admit that your hunting methods are better. But if even one of them gets away, then human hunting techniques win. And what do I get if I win? Bragging rights. And I'll make sure everyone on the station knows you beat 3 human Deathworlders in a fair hunt. And if you win? Lisa grinned. Then you admit that maybe there's more to hunting than just killing everything. Vorthak considered this. The humans will be unarmed? They get basic station tools and whatever they can improvise. No weapons, no outside help. Just them against you. And I may use all my equipment? Whatever you normally hunt with. Vorthak extended one massive claw. Agreed. Lisa shook the claw carefully. I'll go talk to the others. If they agree, we can set it up for tomorrow. Word of the challenge spread through the station faster than Lisa expected. By the time she found Jake Miller in the cargo bay, half the station seemed to know about it. You want me to what? Jake said, setting down the crate he was moving. Let Vorthak hunt you for 2 days. It's completely safe. Well, mostly safe. Jake grinned. A chance to mess with an alien hunter who thinks he's hot stuff? Count me in. Sam Torres was equally enthusiastic when Lisa found her in the security office. Finally, something interesting happens on this boring station. Beth Williams took more convincing, but eventually agreed when she learned that Vorthak had bragged about wiping out entire species. Someone needs to teach that oversized lizard a lesson, Beth said. By evening, the details were set. The hunt would take place in the lower levels of Nexus Prime, a maze of maintenance corridors, storage areas, and abandoned sections that went for miles. Vorthak would have his full hunting gear. The humans would have basic tools and 48 hours to stay free. The betting had already started. Most aliens were putting their money on Vorthak. After all, he was the most famous hunter in known space. The humans were just 3 small Deathworlders with no weapons, but a few aliens, those who had been thinking about Lisa's questions from the night before, were starting to wonder if maybe the humans knew something that Vorthak didn't. The hunt would begin at dawn. The lower levels of Nexus Prime were a different world from the bright commercial decks above. Here, in the forgotten spaces beneath the station, emergency lighting cast long shadows between massive support struts and endless corridors. The air was cooler and carried the smell of recycled atmosphere and machine oil. Most aliens avoided these levels unless their work required it. Vorthak stood at the main entrance to the lower sections, checking his equipment one final time. His thermal scanner could detect body heat through most materials. His motion tracker could pick up movement from hundreds of meters away. His enhanced hearing could catch sounds that most species couldn't even imagine. Add to that his natural speed, strength, and centuries of hunting experience, and this should be the easiest hunt of his career. 3 small humans against the greatest predator in known space. It would be over in hours. Beginning hunt, Vorthak. announced into his comm unit. Above, Lisa and dozens of other aliens watched through security monitors as the famous hunter disappeared into the maze below. Jake Miller was already 2 levels down by the time Vorthak entered the hunting ground. He moved quickly but quietly through the maintenance passages, his military training taking over automatically. The first rule of evading pursuit was to put distance between yourself and the hunter. The second rule was to never run in a straight line. Jake paused at an intersection and listened. Nothing yet, but Vorthak would be tracking him soon enough. Jake pulled out his multi-tool and started working on an access panel. If he was going to survive 48 hours down here, he would need every advantage he could get. Sam Torres had gone deeper into the station than anyone else. She found herself in a section that looked like it hadn't been used in years. Dust covered everything, and some of the lighting had failed completely. Perfect. She opened her toolkit and started pulling out items that most people would never think to use as weapons or tools. Sam had spent 3 years as a combat engineer before coming to Nexus Prime. She knew how to make dangerous things out of innocent parts. More importantly, she knew how to make traps. Beth Williams had chosen a completely different approach. Instead of running or hiding, she was hunting the hunter. She moved through the corridors like a predator herself, staying close to Vorthak's expected path. If he wanted to hunt humans, he was going to learn that humans could hunt back. Vorthak's thermal scanner picked up the first trail within 10 minutes. Jake Miller's heat signature was clear and easy to follow. The human was moving fast but leaving obvious tracks. Too easy, Vorthak thought. But then again, humans were not known for their hunting skills. He followed the trail through 3 levels of corridors, his excitement building. The heat signature was getting stronger. He was gaining on his prey. Around the next corner, the trail led to a maintenance alcove. Vorthak raised his capture net and moved in for the kill. The alcove was empty except for a small heating unit that Jake had rigged to run at maximum power. The thermal signature Vorthak had been following was coming from the machine, not from a human. By the time Vorthak realized the trick, Jake was already 3 corridors away and moving fast. Clever, Vorthak admitted to himself. But tricks would only delay the inevitable. The motion tracker picked up movement in Section C7. Vorthak adjusted his course and headed deeper into the maze. This time he would not be fooled by simple deception. But when he reached Section C7, what he found made him pause. The corridor ahead was blocked by a wall of debris that looked like it had been there for years. His motion tracker insisted something was moving behind the barrier, but there was no way through that he could see. Vorthak used his strength to start clearing the debris. It took 20 minutes of hard work before he realized that the barrier was artificial. Someone had built it recently using old materials to make it look aged. Behind it, he found another empty corridor and a small device that Sam Torres had rigged to move back and forth, triggering his motion sensors. 2 tricks in the first hour. Vorthak was starting to understand that this hunt might be more challenging than he expected. His enhanced hearing picked up a sound from below. Footsteps, definitely human, moving through the lower maintenance levels. Vorthak smiled and headed for the nearest access ladder. Finally, real prey instead of clever deceptions. He dropped down 3 levels and started following the sound. The footsteps were getting closer. Around the next corner, he could hear someone working with tools. Metal on metal. The sound of someone who didn't know they were being hunted. Vorthak crept forward, net ready. The sound was coming from just ahead. He could see light from around the corner. One quick rush and the first human would be caught. He rounded the corner at full speed and found Beth Williams waiting for him with a smile and a jury-rigged electrical weapon made from maintenance tools. "Hello there," she said, and fired. The electrical charge hit Vorthak's thermal scanner and fried half its circuits. The device sparked and went dead, taking his most useful hunting tool with it. Before he could recover, Beth was gone, disappearing into the maze of corridors like she had never been there. Vorthak looked at his damaged equipment and felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: uncertainty. 6 hours into the hunt, he had found none of his prey. Worse, they were actively working against him, using the station itself as a weapon. His equipment was damaged, and he was no closer to catching any of them than when he started. The humans weren't acting like prey at all. They were acting like predators. Jake Miller appeared at the end of a corridor, just long enough for Vorthak to see him, then vanished again. When Vorthak reached the spot, he found a message scratched into the metal wall. "Having fun yet?" Sam Torres had rigged a section of corridor to flood with harmless but annoying foam when Vorthak walked through it. It took him an hour to clean the stuff off his equipment, and another hour to find a way around the blocked passage. Beth Williams had somehow gotten behind him again and disabled the backup power in an entire section. Vorthak found himself hunting in complete darkness while his prey moved around him like ghosts. By the 12-hour mark, Vorthak was forced to admit that he was not winning this hunt. The humans were still free, his equipment was failing, and he was starting to feel tired in a way he hadn't experienced since his early days as a young hunter. Worse, he was starting to realize that the humans weren't just evading him randomly. They had a plan. They were working together even though they were separated, leaving signs for each other and coordinating their movements. They were herding him, guiding him deeper into the station's maze, away from the exits and into areas where his advantages meant nothing. Above, Lisa watched the security feeds with growing satisfaction. The aliens around her had stopped cheering for Vorthak. Many were beginning to understand that they were watching something unprecedented. The galaxy's most famous hunter was being outmatched by 3 humans with nothing but basic tools and their wits. "How are they doing that?" asked a 4-armed alien merchant. "They're thinking like prey that doesn't want to become extinct," Lisa explained. "Back home, we learned to survive by being smarter than the things trying to eat us. We got good at it." On the screen, Vorthak was trudging through another corridor, looking increasingly frustrated and tired. Behind him, just out of range of his remaining sensors, Jake Miller followed at a safe distance, keeping track of the hunter's movements. The humans weren't just surviving the hunt. They were studying their hunter, learning his patterns, and staying, always one step ahead, and they still had 36 hours to go. 24 hours into the hunt, Vorthak had to stop and rest. This was something that had never happened before in all his years of hunting. His massive frame was built for short bursts of incredible speed and power, not for the endless endurance that this chase required. His breathing was heavy and his scales were slick with moisture from the humid air of the lower levels. The humans, meanwhile, seemed to have endless energy. They kept moving, kept setting traps, kept appearing just long, enough to let him know they were still out there. How were such small creatures able to maintain this pace? Above in the observation area, Lisa was explaining to the growing crowd of spectators. "It's called persistence hunting," she said. "Back on Earth, humans used to hunt animals much bigger and stronger than themselves just by following them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We're not the fastest or the strongest, but we can keep going long after everything else gives up. A snake-like alien with translator implants hissed a question. But Vorthak is much larger and stronger than any human. How can they outlast him? Size works against you in a long chase, Lisa replied. His big muscles need more energy. His heavy frame makes him work harder just to move. And he's been hunting alone for so long that he doesn't know how to deal with prey that works together. On the monitors, they could see Sam Torres carefully, setting up another trap while Jake Miller led Vorthak away from her position. Beth Williams was somewhere else entirely, probably working on disabling more of the station's systems to give her teammates advantages. "They're not just running away," observed a crystalline being whose voice sounded like chimes. "They have a strategy." "Of course they do," Lisa said. "That's what makes humans dangerous. We don't just react, we plan." Down in the maze, Vorthak was discovering this truth the hard way. Every time he thought he had figured out the humans' pattern, they changed it. Every time he found a way to counter their tricks, they came up with new ones. It was like hunting prey that evolved new defenses every few hours. His motion tracker picked up movement in section D12. Vorthak forced himself to his feet and headed in that direction, but more slowly than before. He was learning to be cautious. The humans had already damaged most of his equipment and led him into a dozen traps. This could be another trick, but when he reached the section, he found Jake Miller sitting on a crate, calmly eating something from a ration pack. The human looked up as Vorthak approached. "Oh, hey there," Jake said conversationally. "Took you long enough. I was starting to think you'd given up." Vorthak raised his capture net, but something in Jake's calm demeanor made him pause. "You are not running." "Nope." Jake took another bite of his ration. "Thought it was time we had a chat." "This is a hunt, not a conversation," Jake shrugged. "Is it, though? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been getting hunted for the past day." Vorthak's claws extended. "I am the predator here." "Are you?" Jake asked. "Let me ask you something. How many times have you seen us in the past 24 hours? Vorthak thought about it. "Several times." "And how many times could you have caught us?" "You kept escaping through tricks and deception." Jake nodded. "Sure. But here's the thing you're not getting. Every time you saw us, we chose to let you see us. Every time we escaped, we planned the escape before you ever got close. We've been controlling this entire hunt from the beginning." This was a disturbing thought. Vorthak had assumed that his brief glimpses of the humans were due to his superior hunting skills. The idea that they had been deliberately showing themselves was unsettling. "You are still my prey," Vorthak said, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. "Am I?" Jake stood up slowly, his hands visible and empty. "Because I'm pretty sure I could have seriously hurt you about a dozen times since this started. The station's infrastructure is pretty dangerous if you know how to use it. Electrical systems, pressure doors, environmental controls, lots of ways for accidents to happen." Vorthak realized that this was true. The humans had disabled his equipment and led him into uncomfortable situations, but they had never actually tried to harm him. He had assumed this was because they were too weak to pose a real threat. Now he was beginning to wonder if they were showing restraint for other reasons. "Why haven't you?" he asked. Jake smiled. "Because that's not the point of this exercise. We're not trying to kill you. We're trying to teach you something." "Teach me what?" "That hunting isn't just about being able to kill things. It's about understanding the whole ecosystem. Your way of hunting might work in the short term, but it's not sustainable. You kill everything and then move on to find new things to kill. Eventually, you're going to run out of prey." Jake gestured around at the corridors surrounding them. Our way of hunting is different. We make sure some prey escapes, so there will be more later. We study our prey so we understand how they think and behave. We work together because cooperation is more effective than individual effort. And most importantly, we know when to stop. Vorthak was quiet for a long moment. You could have killed me. Probably, Jake admitted. But then what would we have learned? And what would you have learned? Dead hunters don't pass on wisdom to the next generation. Before Vorthak could respond, Jake was moving again, not running but walking purposefully toward a side corridor. By the way, he called over his shoulder, Sam set up something really interesting in section E3. You should check it out, but be careful. She's gotten really creative with the environmental systems. And then Jake was gone, leaving Vorthak alone with thoughts that he had never considered before. In section E3, Vorthak found Sam Torres waiting for him with what appeared to be a complex arrangement of pipes, wires, and machinery components. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, tinkering with some sort of device. "Oh, good, you found me," she said without looking up. "I was wondering if Jake would be able to point you in the right direction." "What is this?" Vorthak asked, gesturing at the machinery around them. "This," Sam said proudly, "is a demonstration of human engineering. See? I figured you might try to corner one of us eventually, so I built this little insurance policy." She held up a small control device. "This whole section is rigged to flood with harmless sleep gas if I push this button. Nothing dangerous, just enough to knock you out for a few hours. But here's the interesting part. I'm not going to use it." "Why not?" Sam looked up at him with a grin. "Because that would be too easy. And because I think you're starting to understand what we're really showing you here." She stood up and started walking toward the exit. "The thing is, Vorthak, we could have ended this hunt any time in the first 6 hours. All three of us could have escaped permanently, and you never would have found us again. But that wasn't the point." "Then what was the point?" "To show you that there's a difference between being a killer and being a hunter. Killers just destroy things. Hunters understand that the prey is part of a larger system, and that system has to be maintained if you want the hunting to continue." Paused at the corridor entrance. "You've got 12 hours left in this hunt. Want some advice?" Vorthak nodded slowly. "Stop thinking like a predator and start thinking like a participant in an ecosystem. The prey isn't your enemy. It's your partner in a dance that's been going on for millions of years. Your job isn't to end the dance. Your job is to make sure it keeps going." And with that, Sam Torres disappeared into the maze, leaving Vorthak alone with the realization that everything he thought he knew about hunting might be wrong. With 6 hours remaining in the hunt, Vorthak made one final attempt to salvage his reputation as the galaxy's greatest hunter. He had spent the last several hours thinking about what the humans had told him, but his pride demanded that he at least try to catch one of them using traditional methods. He activated his remaining equipment and pushed himself to move faster through the corridors. If he could corner just one human in the final hours, he could claim some measure of victory. His enhanced hearing picked up sounds from the central maintenance area, and he headed in that direction with renewed determination. But as he moved through the maze of passages, Vorthak began to notice things he had missed before. The humans hadn't just been evading him randomly. They had been guiding him in a specific direction, herding him like prey toward the center of the lower levels, away from the exits, away from areas where he might have advantages, into the deepest part of the maze where his size and strength meant nothing. They had been hunting him while he thought he was hunting them. The realization was both humbling and terrifying. In all his years of experience, Vorthak had never encountered prey that could reverse the roles so completely. The humans had turned him into the hunted without him even realizing it was happening. He reached the central maintenance area and found all three humans waiting for him. Jake Miller was sitting on a supply crate, looking relaxed. Sam Torres was leaning against a support pillar, still tinkering with some improvised device. Beth Williams stood near the main console, her hand resting on what appeared to be environmental controls. "Hello, Vorthak," Jake said calmly. "We thought it was time for a proper face-to-face meeting." Vorthak looked around the area, assessing the situation. The humans had chosen their ground carefully. Multiple exits, good sight lines, and they were positioned so that they could escape in different directions if needed. Even now, cornered in the open, they maintained tactical advantages. "The hunt is not over," Vorthak said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Isn't it?" Beth asked. "You've been chasing us for 42 hours. Your equipment is damaged, you're exhausted, and you haven't gotten close to actually catching any of us. At what point do you admit that maybe your hunting methods aren't as effective as you thought?" Vorthak's claws extended slightly. "I could still capture you now. All three of you are. Here." Sam held up her improvised device. "You could try, but I've got the environmental systems rigged to flood this section with foam. Beth can lock down all the exits with a button press, and Jake has been carrying around something that will make your day very unpleasant if you force us to use it." Jake patted a small cylinder attached to his belt. "Concentrated capsaicin extract. It's a chemical compound from earth plants. Harmless to humans, but it would probably leave you unable to see or breathe for several hours." "You came prepared to fight," Vorthak observed. "We came prepared to survive," Beth corrected. "There's a difference." Vorthak lowered his claws. These humans could have incapacitated him at any point during the hunt. They had shown restraint and mercy that he had never encountered in any prey species. More importantly, they had demonstrated hunting techniques that were completely alien to his experience. "I do not understand," he admitted. "You are clearly capable of defeating me, yet you choose not to. Why?" Jake stood up and walked closer to Vorthak. The human was tiny compared to the alien hunter, but he moved without fear. "Because defeating you wasn't the point. Teaching you was the point." "Teaching me what?" "That hunting isn't about dominance," Sam said. "It's about balance. The creatures you hunt aren't just targets," Beth added. "They're part of an ecosystem that took millions of years to develop. When you wipe out entire species, you're destroying something that can never be replaced." Jake reached into his pack and pulled out a water container. He offered it to Vorthak. "You're dehydrated. Drink this." Vorthak accepted the water cautiously. It was clean and cool, with no trace of drugs or toxins. "Why are you helping me?" "Because that's what hunters do for each other," Jake said. "Back. On Earth, hunters share water and food. We help each other survive. Competition doesn't mean we have to destroy each other." Vorthak drank deeply, realizing how thirsty he had become during the long chase. "Your world must be very different from the rest of the galaxy." "Maybe," Sam said. "Or maybe the rest of the galaxy just forgot how to hunt properly." "What do you mean?" Beth gestured around at the maintenance area. "Look at this station. Thousands of different species working together, sharing resources, cooperating to survive in the vacuum of space. That's an ecosystem, too. But most of the aliens here think of competition and cooperation as opposite things. Humans learned a long time ago that the best way to survive is to make sure everyone survives," Jake explained. "We compete with each other, sure, but we also help each other. We hunt prey, but we also protect prey from other predators, so there will be prey to hunt later. Vorthak was beginning to understand. You are saying that I have been thinking about hunting incorrectly. Not incorrectly, Sam said. Just incompletely. You're really good at the killing part, but killing is only one small piece of what hunting actually is. The most important part of hunting, Beth said, is making sure the hunt can continue tomorrow. Jake sat back down on his crate. That's why some prey has to walk away. Not because they're lucky, or because the hunter is weak, but because the hunter is smart enough to know that today's escaped prey is tomorrow's sustainable hunt. Vorthak looked around at the three humans who had completely outmaneuvered him for nearly 2 days. They were small, physically weak compared to him, and armed with nothing but improvised tools. Yet they had demonstrated hunting skills that surpassed anything in his experience. What happens now? He asked. Now the hunt is over, Jake said. In about 6 hours, we'll all walk out of here together. You'll have learned something new about hunting and we'll have had an interesting challenge. But I failed to catch any of you. Did you? Sam asked. Because we're all right here talking to you. Seems to me like you found exactly what you were looking for. I was looking for prey to capture. No, Beth said. You were looking for proof that you're the best hunter in the galaxy. We just showed you a different way to measure that. Vorthak considered this. How do humans measure hunting success? By whether the ecosystem is healthier after the hunt than it was before, Jake said. By whether the prey species becomes stronger and smarter. By whether there will still be something to hunt next year and the year after that. And by whether the hunter learns something new, Sam added. Vorthak felt something shift in his understanding. For centuries, he had measured his success by the number of creatures he had killed and the feared reputation he had built. But these humans were suggesting that true hunting skill was measured by completely different standards. I have much to think about, he said finally. That's the idea, Beth said with a smile. The final hours of the hunt passed quietly. The humans showed Vorthak some of the techniques they had used to evade him, explaining the principles behind. Persistence hunting, cooperative tactics, and sustainable predation. Vorthak shared some of his own knowledge about tracking and reading terrain. When the 48-hour deadline arrived, all 4 of them walked out of the lower levels together. The crowd of aliens waiting in the observation area erupted in confused chatter. They had expected to see either Vorthak dragging captured humans behind him or the humans celebrating their victory over the famous hunter. Instead, they saw what looked like 4 friends returning from a camping trip. Lisa Carter was waiting at the exit with a satisfied smile. So, she asked Vorthak, did any of them walk away? Vorthak looked at the 3 humans standing beside him, tired but unharmed. For the first time in his life, he understood what the question really meant. Yes, he said quietly. They all walked away. And how does that make you feel? Vorthak thought about it for a long moment. Like, maybe I have been hunting wrong for a very long time. The crowd of aliens listening to this exchange began to murmur among themselves. Some seemed confused, others thoughtful. A few were already asking questions about Earth and human hunting practices. Would you like to learn more about how we do things back home? Lisa asked. Vorthak nodded slowly. I think I would like that very much. Word of the hunt spread quickly, through Nexus Prime and beyond. Within days, Other alien hunters were arriving at the station, wanting to learn about human hunting techniques. The humans found themselves in the unexpected position of teaching courses on sustainable predation and ecosystem management. Vorthak became their most dedicated student. He discovered that there was an entire philosophy of hunting that he had never encountered, one that focused on balance, respect, and long-term thinking rather than immediate dominance. But perhaps most importantly, he learned that the most dangerous predators in the galaxy were dangerous, not because they could kill everything, but because they were wise enough to let some things live. The reputation of humans continued to spread through the galaxy, but it was a different kind of reputation. Now, they were known not just as survivors of a death world, but as the species that had figured out how to turn survival into an art form. And on distant worlds, when young aliens heard stories about the hunters,